Yes, those are the victory horns, and they sound for the polar bear, Serghei Spivac. Revenge is sweet, and revenge happened at the world's most famous Apex. Armbar submission from one Serghei Spivac, and now we're even at one, and that can only mean one thing. Time for a trilogy between these two gentlemen, right? Welcome to the UFC Vegas 95 post-fight show. I am Mike Heck. Shout out to Serghei Spivac because, boy, didn't expect to use Serghei Spivac and hero in the same sentence, but boy, we needed a hero to come along and just put this card to rest. And Serghei Spivac comes through in the main event and does it. Speaking of heroes, joining me to recap this event in probably pretty short order, New York Rick. What a hero he is. Good to see you again, sir. I mean, we started off previewing this event. No better way than finishing this and recapping this event than with you here virtually, New York Rick. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. I don't consider myself a hero. I'm just a man. But I'm just a man who survived UFC Apex 95. So we're here, and impressive stuff out of Serghei Spivac. That's worth talking about. So let's get into it.
Yeah, it came out, landed a nice combination early. Like, I was impressed with him on the feet. And then a little bit of a takedown. Spivak was kind of on Tybura's back. We knew that wasn't going to last very long. And then Tybura gets the position. He's on top. And I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, New York Rick, this is going to be the next 23 minutes of this fight. Like, this is exactly what we're going to see. And then that sly dog, that sly polar bear, Serghei Spivac, sneaky little devil, traps the arm, gets the arm bar, traps it so tight that Tybura can't even tap. He has to verbally submit. Minute 44, New York Rick. Nice performance from Serghei Spivac, was it not?
Not necessarily how I expected that to go. I thought if there was going to be a finish, it was probably going to be later in the fight. But yes, impressive. Like, look, we were together on the preview show and we broke it down. This is the equator. This is the middle line, 8 and 9. But with a performance like that, you start to creep. You start to creep. And now you could have Jailton Almeida, who's on social media, saying that he wants to fight him. And then all of a sudden you knock off Jailton Almeida and you start to creep again. And so there's a path. There's a path for Serghei Spivac to escape that equator status. And this was how you start that. This was how you get that momentum started. An impressive submission. Like, against the guy who, as we pointed out on the preview show as well, like, kind of loses the best of the best. And so I was impressed. I did not expect it to go this way. If there was a finish, I thought it would be Spivac, but I didn't think it would necessarily be this way, and I thought it would come later. So he impressed me.
Shout out to Spivak as well. First fighter to ever submit Marcin Tybura. Through all these years, all these fights, never been submitted. Shout out to Jed Meshew as well. Cashed a plus 800 on Spivak by submission. Just great stuff. Great stuff. I thought for sure, New York Rick, because Bisbing just kept going after him in a way where it's like, call somebody out, give me a name, do it. And meanwhile, Spivak is just trying to make peace with Michael Bisbing. Didn't think Michael Bisbing liked him very much. Was trying to sort of bury the hatchet with him. Bisbing was like, yeah, man, I like you. Now shout out a name. And he had no name. I thought for sure he was going to call it Jon Jones or Tom Aspinall or do something egregious. But no, stuck to his guns. Just said, no, just want to fight somebody higher ranked than I. And then Jed just posted our Slack channel, Spivak on the post show, Karen Bryant, Michael Chiesa and company doing the same thing. Call somebody out, please give us a name. He's just like, no, just somebody ranked ahead of me, New York Rick. He's just being himself. I appreciate that. He's not going all Joaquin Buckley right now. He's not going all Shara Bullet right now and just making insane call outs. He's just being true to himself.
And I like it. And by the way, as I just said on social media, Jailton Almeida has already called him out. So he doesn't need to do anything, which is great. It's right there. 7 versus perceivably 8, which means there's really no movement here. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Jailton Almeida. Look, that's the fight to make, because any of the guys above are probably not going to come out. I think Jailton Almeida is rightfully also seeing a kind of situation developing there where like maybe it's hard for him to vertically climb again. And so this makes sense. Spivak versus Almeida. And yeah, I'm okay. Look, we're not going to rehash the whole do I care that you have to nail the call out precisely situation. I'm okay in this instance because I don't think there's like a like the reason why I don't think there's this thing where you have to nail the call out is because I don't believe that most of these fighters have the clout to get what they want. And Serghei Spivac does not have the clout to get what he wants. So even if he's out there calling out the guy ranked number 5 or 4, he doesn't have the clout to get number 5 or 4. And so he's going to get number 7 because number 7 is calling him out. So this is what we end up with, and it's okay. All is okay in the world.
I raise you a Caio Borralho because look what happened with him. He went from calling out Dricus du Plessis, who was about to fight for the belt at the time, to changing gears, realizing his mistakes, probably listening to our post-fight show. And then he comes back and he nails the call out. Nails it. Calls out Jared Cannonier for a main event at the world's most famous Apex. And wouldn't you know it, New York Rick, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from right now, he's getting exactly that. Jared Cannonier, main event at the world's most famous Apex. You see how this works?
You can tell by how far in advance they booked this fight, the level of consideration they put into that call out, and we're really like sitting on it and mulling it over and really wanting him to get what he wanted there. But yeah, I mean, again, like Spivak, it's tough sledding. It's tough sledding to break into that top of the heavyweight division, and quite frankly, a lot of them are booked, right? Like we're looking at guys who have fights, and so there's really not a lot of options. Jailton Almeida makes a lot of sense, and makes sense for Almeida as well. Like again, these guys are booked. You kind of have to stay busy. Put those guys in there. It can happen relatively soon. Spivak definitely did not take any damage in this fight, and keep the division going. I like the fight.
Yeah,
the grappling should be fun in that one too.
Yeah, I like that fight. Blades would be interesting. I think those are kind of like the two options ahead for Spivak right now, but I do like the Jailton idea because I kind of want to see where Jailton's at as well. I think that's like a really good test for him at this point to see where he's at. And yeah, I mean, Spivak's gotten his chance, man. He went out there, beat Derek Lewis. They gave him a main event against Cyril Gane, which if he'd won that fight, he's probably getting some sort of a title shot.
Yeah.
In some capacity. So, I mean, it's not like he's never gotten his chance, but now he could slowly make his way back from the equator back up to the sky. Look at this guy. What a night he had in short order. Chepe Mariscal gets the win. Crazy ass pace that this man put on. He also missed weight, but yeah. tough night for Damon Jackson. Man, Danny Barlow, tough night for him. He wins, but I don't think he gained a whole hell of a lot with that performance. Chris Gutierrez, Kwang Lee, good fight. Gutierrez got tested. I think people expected that. Gets the job done. Yana Santos beats Chelsea Chandler, probably knocks her out of the UFC. Toshiomi Kazama, what a comeback. What a crazy-ass second round against Gregorio. Carol Hosa is just mean and nasty in there. Gets the victory. Janata Deniz beats Carl Williams in a fight that transpired for sure. Yusuf Zalal just made quick work of Jarno Aarons, and then Stephanie Luciano and Talita Alankar had themselves a rematch, and fists flew, and Luciano won. So yeah, there's Vegas 95. I mean, anything stick out to you, New York Rick? Did you leave this card outside of Serghei Spivac saying like, you know what, this is awesome. I liked this. This is cool.
The 30-27 Oppo in the Barlow fight, that one stood out to me. What was that? What are you watching? What was that? That is horrendous. That stood out to me, not for good reasons. But the rest, uninspiring. Like it was just a card that it delivered exactly the level that I had expectations for it at. So how about that? Like it didn't go below expectations. It met expectations, which we can move on very quickly to UFC 305. But that card, what, how, who, when, why? It's just mind boggling how that was submitted.
That was Jaron Vallel, by the way. who has refereed some fights as well, I believe.
Yeah.
And Alex Bunin of MMA Mania actually posted a photo of a couple of the referees talking to Jaron Valal about said card. And it was funny because as Marcin Tybura is getting ready to walk out to the octagon and Red Hot Chili Peppers is playing, I can literally see Mike Beltran and Jaron Valal like making peace based on what they were talking about. Like they're hugging each other, like near where Valal was sitting for judging that fight. And you could see like whatever heated discussion they previously had came to an end like right at that moment as Tybura was about to walk out. It was freaking crazy. I'm watching this all transpire as this walkout's happening.
It was a card worth a heated discussion. It was a submitted scorecard worth having a conversation about that might get a little bit testy. But I'm glad to hear that they mended fences. I'm glad to hear that all's well by the time the main event stepped into the cage. But that was the one thing that I just couldn't wrap my head around. And then the impressive performance in the main event. Those are the moments.
And Yusuf Salal.
And Yusuf Salal, who we all like, the biggest favorite on the card, I think, like, or second or something. I think
he was minus 600 by the time.
We knew he's back and he's ready to style on folks. So yeah.
Casey, come on in. I don't know really. It's not a whole hell of a lot to recap here. There was somebody on Twitter who was telling me that this is an enjoyable card. This is better than 302. And it had more storylines. And
302 is Pantoja? The Pantoja versus Usyk?
Poirier Islam.
Sorry, what?
I mean,
this is more enjoyable than 302. 302 was not a great card. It was pretty bad.
Okay, but the main event was amazing.
Yeah. Main event was great. Kevin Holland almost breaking a dude's arms, pretty wild.
Oh yeah. There's lots by the time we got to the card, the main card.
Maybe he was just thinking about his pocketbook and it was free.
Yeah. Pretty bad. Yeah.
By the way, somebody tweeted us. They were like trying to take a shot. I think I can't really tell. Rob Thomas tweeted, so much for the over 3.5, huh? New York Rick and Mike Heck. For the record, Mike Heck.
I said there would be a finish
in this fight. He was picking a finish in this one under. So that's not on Mike Heck. That's on me. I thought this one was likely going longer. So no, Mike was on top of that one, and said Spivok. Said if it was a finish, it would be Spivok.
The part of the fight I liked the most was Bisbing asking Spivok when Spivok goes, "Be honest. Were you going for, like, did you expect that to happen?" And Spivok just goes, "Well, I had a bad injury coming to the fight, so I couldn't train." And Bisbing just goes, "Whatever." I was like, dude, the guy's like, man, this was like, the guy was, I feel like Spivok was like, I just had it was mentally stressing as a main event. I'm going against a guy I lost against, and I have to win this fight if I want to, achieve my dreams. And Bisbing's just like, whatever. It's just.
That to me feels like
that would have been a good time to follow up. Right
well, for sure that. But it feels like he had this like great question in his head, and then like when the answer was not even related to it, I think he was just like, okay, so we have to move on now from this that you have not answered, and he just like it came out as whatever, like in his head he's like, oh, whatever, that wasn't what I was thinking, and it just he spit out the whatever. But yes, that would be worth potentially a follow-up of why things were so horrible.
That's so funny. Paul Felder would have never done that, by the way. No. Felder would have been like, whoa. Tell me when, tell me why, tell me how, which body part, who did it, what's his name. Yeah. Felder's great at that stuff.
I enjoyed what Felder said about the armbar, too, because he kind of said, this is like basic, like you learn this armbar in the first 2 weeks of jiu-jitsu. But he said, but to do it in this type of environment, which makes it so spectacular, because it wasn't, it was basic. Just like, a basic jab is a basic jab, but can you do it again at the right moment, the right time, against all the stress, all the lights, And I like how Felder kind of, Bisbing was just like, oh, that's just a basic armbar. It's like, but Felder was a little more like, no, it's a little more than that. If you can do that at that moment, that's what makes great fighters. And
don't we find that it is the guys who can like execute the fundamentals when it's at the highest level, when it's at the highest stakes, and
Yep.
it's not the complicated stuff, it's not the flying triangles, it's the jab, it's the rear naked choke, it's the things that really just like are meat and potatoes, but you put yourself in the right position when the lights are brightest and you execute it. And yeah, that's what I saw. I saw a guy execute a really nice submission in a great moment.
Yeah. Actually, I need to, and it won't be remembered because it was executed so, just the basics were executed so well. It won't be remembered as one of the submissions of the year. But to me, I love these type of submissions because it was just, this is how you're supposed to do it, and he did everything perfect. And Tybura was just, when you're just half a second behind against someone that knows exactly what they're doing, you will get submitted. And very impressive. I didn't know Tybura was never actually submitted in his entire career. That's so. Great performance of
Impressive.
Spivak, and he is clearly getting better. He's just clearly getting
Yeah.
better. I think that's the big.
I mean-
I think that's my big takeaway. I don't know where he's going to end up. Is he going to be a top 5?
Yeah.
Who knows? But the man is getting better, and yeah, I'm not looking forward to any pre-fight theatrics or pre-fight drama. But next time he does fight, maybe in Almeida, I am interested definitely in seeing how he improves, or is this it, for him as far as like moving up the ladder. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the preview show, we kind of talked about that, right? Like, of the two, Spivak was the one that we were like, he's come the furthest from that fight. Like, is it going to be far enough? Is Tybura going to be able to do the same thing? Spivak's the one who made the improvements. And, it sounds like, based on what you're saying, and my takeaway is like, he's improved more than I maybe even gave him credit for, or maybe even thought.
I mean,
he
I picked
looks good.
Tybura coming into this, but I always say I love being wrong because that means I'm learning, I'm seeing things, and my ideas are changing. So Spivak is I don't want to say he's a player yet, in terms of top echelon, but I think one went away though. So yeah.
Heavyweight is so fascinating in this regard, and sorry for like delaying the questions, but like I feel like a lot of people threw let's say give a name like Alexander Volkov, right? You lose a few, and all of a sudden it's just like you're never gonna be a guy, right? They can't be a guy. But now it's like actually maybe Volkov is a guy, and then you get the fights that allow you to kind of establish that and kind of show like, hey, I deserve like this spot. If he beats Jailton Almeida, the next step up is in that territory where all of a sudden, like, you're talking about him like he's a guy. Now, the step between number 5, 4, 3 and champion is the most massive step, right? That is the hardest step to take. That is the monumental leap. But to get there is still viable at this moment, especially considering that performance. Like it feels like a door has reopened for him in a way that maybe he was like cast aside a little bit. Like I mentioned with, I think, Volkov, right? Volkov was somebody I feel like people kind of like really like backed off real quickly. Once he faltered, they're like, that's it. That's it. It's not going to happen for him. And now he's in big fights again and could be setting himself up for title opportunities. So it's not impossible. This is the path. Yeah. You beat a Jailton, and then you beat the next guy, and you're sitting right there going, holy shit, I'm 2 away. I'm 1 away.
I know.
If he wins 2 more, he's probably getting it. Like,
yeah, he's right there.
Jailton,
well,
he'd probably fight Blades next. Then
I feel like they'd shove Alex Pereira or somebody else in there before they do that one.
It could be a year before we see Spivac fight again. We don't know. It was a year before his last fight, so
hopefully not.
It seems like they're in a huge rush to get him in there.
The Almeida fight does make a lot of sense. Maybe this is maybe I'll ask New York Rick, because I know you have your little on the next tomorrow. But I like Spivak versus Blades next. I think that makes sense for both of them.
My thing with that is you don't want Curtis Blades to halt the momentum of somebody like Spivak in this position, because you can't really build on it. Like, Curtis Blades is somebody who has had so many of those opportunities, right? He has had these big fights, numerous main events, numerous ones against guys who, if you win, you're now going to get the title shot. And so if he wins that, you've now put Spivak back, you've pushed him back, and you've got Blades in this kind of like no man's land where you can't like build off that win. Whereas I think with a Jailton, the momentum would be, oh shit, Jalton's back, right? Oh, that Blades loss was like a setback. He learned from it, and now you can build on, hey, Jalton's back. So I think it's one of those where like no matter who wins that one, you can kind of push them forward. Whereas with Blades, it's really tough if Blades wins that fight. Like now, it's like you're back to square one here, like before he had any momentum.
Fair. All right.
I don't hate it as a style though. I'd watch Spivac versus Blades, no problem.
All right, what we got for questions?
Still waiting on bonuses. Don't have them yet.
I think they canceled them tonight.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I was about to say, I think it's very funny, I guess, that the UFC gives the same amount of money for these cards as they will for a multi-million dollar pay-per-view.
Yeah,
it's just weird. Okay, cool.
Can I ask an honest question? Like, this is a dead serious question, and I know sometimes you come off as a little curmudgeon and stuff like that, but this is a serious question. Rick, I'll ask you first. Was this the worst card of the year? Was this the worst card of 2024?
Probably. But to be fair, that's my honest answer. But to be fair, we also thought it would be the worst card of the year, right? Like there's cards that we thought that, okay, maybe these will be better, and then they end up being worse. And I think that's actually a tougher pill to swallow. This one, we kind of came in being like, yeah, it's poop. It's a poop card. And it ended up being a poop card. So I kind of like, I'm more accepting of like, this is what it was supposed to be, and then it ends up being that. I'm kind of okay. I'm more okay with that than if it's like expectations are elevated and then it falls short. It sounds like somebody earlier was saying like 302 is an example of that, right? Where maybe they built the expectations up to be like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And then it ends up not being. That can be a tougher pill to swallow. I'm kind of okay. But yes, ultimately, like objectively, I can't think of a worse UFC card. So yeah, I think so.
Is this the worst one, Casey?
The bad cards, like you say a lot, like we see cards and then we'll just go, you know what? We'll forget by Tuesday. We won't remember this card at all. And I think that's what happens a lot. Like we've seen a lot of bad cards, but I just kind of forget about them in 2 or 3 days. I remember certain fights, but I don't remember the card as a whole. And by tomorrow morning, I will forget this card as a whole. I will remember specific fights. So basically, yes. Basically, yes.
Until you have new evidence like represented to you, the answer is yes. Until somebody reminds you about some other card, you're like, yep, that's it.
Yeah, it was a very uninspired matchmaking, uninspired. I don't want to say uninspired fighting because that's not fair because the fighters came out there. It's a fist fight. This is their dreams on the line, but as a viewing experience, it's a really good
the viewing experience is bad. The viewing experience is very bad. There only 10 fights happened. It felt like 19 fights happened.
It did feel long.
Casey makes a really good point though, because when we as outsiders are talking about these cards, right, we talk about the lack of stakes. But for the fighters, every fight has high stakes, right? Every single fight that you have in the UFC is the highest possible stakes. You're fighting in the pinnacle of the sport, even if we as the outside observers are saying this is the worst card of the year. For Serghei Spivac, this is one of the biggest wins of his life, right? For Youssef Zalal, this is the momentum that is carrying forward into potential like rankings and back and showing that his first run in the UFC was nothing. For Chepe Mariscal, it's the continuation of such an incredible UFC run so far. And so while we, don't view the stakes, there's always those stakes for the fighters. And so it's important to just, I think, recognize that, and good on Casey for doing it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that there's not objective truths though about this not being an entertaining card and not having like stakes from a larger rankings perspective. There's truth to that.
Yeah, I mean, and of course when you're in there, it's totally different. Like I'm pretty sure when they interviewed Danny Barlow after the fight, he was like, "Man, that was a freaking war, man," and he was just like, "Oh my God," he was like, for him, those 15 minutes were like, oh my God, this guy's trying to kill me, for him, but for us, we're like,
so. Yeah. According to Jaron,
what's supposed to happen.
According to Jaron Balal, he did kill him. He blanked them. He destroyed them. It was 30-27. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Do the questions. Do the super chats.
Though. Shout out to the fighters, but yeesh.
Yeah.
Tough thing.
And it's only because it's the freaking UFC. This is the pinnacle. That's why it is the UFC. And we love MMA. We love seeing the sport at its best. And the UFC didn't give that to us. And they can't do it every week, but we're here. Yeah. Oh no.
Just pace it like there are certain things they can do to make it better. They could have paced this card better and it would have been a better viewing experience. Still would have been not a great card, but it would have been a very like if this post-fight show should be over. We should have been wrapped and packed with this thing an hour ago with the like if they pace this normally.
A real question for you. On a card like this, should they not just do like the Dana White Contender Series thing? Should they not just be like, yo, let's rack them back to back? Like we just go. We just go. Fight, and then we're out. What is the sell that we need here for like the commercial, the promo, the this, the that? Like, let's just move. I feel like this is a perfect card to have done that.
Dude, do you remember like the old days when they used to we'd get like 2 or 3 fight night cards on Fight Pass every year?
Yeah.
Those were a dream come true because those are just bang, bang, bang. It was one fight into the next. And those cards, even with a title fight, one of them had Eddie Alvarez challenging Rafael dos Anjos for the lightweight title. There was like 13 fights on that card. The card lasted like 2.5 hours because there were no commercials. There were no prelims, middle prelims, then main card. They just rifled through all these fights like nothing. They should do that for all of these cards. It's not like you're trying to sell ESPN subscriptions here. There was like 2 promos for $305 the entire card. It was
that was
crazy.
weird. That was actually odd.
Crazy.
It's, I guess, ultimately it's no secret. It's probably the commercial inventory, right? You have a certain allocation of just like, we need to have 2 minutes of commercials and you just can't, they sell them. I would argue you could sell the commercials at a higher price and do less of them. And maybe that's a solution, but I'm not, running the show over there. But yeah, it just feels like this is not the one to have it be a slog. But at the same time, like the same thing I always say, we're suckers and we tune in anyway. So what do they care?
Remember they used to, for like the fight nights before the pay-per-view, they would bring in the 2 fighters by Zoom or something, do it like they would in between, like before the main event. They would do something like that. Like there was always reminded, this is the big fight. This is the fight card before the big fight. And like, yeah, if you blinked, you wouldn't seen any hype or promos for the next pay-per-view next week.
It's all just a week to week. It's all just a week to week endeavor at this point. It's like UFC 305 starts the moment this one ends, and then they just go. To their credit, I feel like PFL does a lot of that, right? They're the ones kind of carrying that forward, which it's like, Francis is coming up. Let's bring in Francis. They try to do some of that stuff. Then they also interview like Jeff Fisher randomly just because they're in Tennessee and stuff like that. But they also do try to do like, hey, we've got a big event coming up. Let's bring in somebody. So yeah, and I prefer that. But again, like this all seems to be monetary, which they're a very successful business. I'm not about to pretend that I can do business at the level that they do business. So they're doing something correctly. But from a fan experience perspective, like this could just be shorter.
Yeah. Just real quick before we go to the super chats, what were the commercials that you get over and over and over again? Because I know it's different for different regions or whatever. I get like a million commercials for some EV Hummer and some.
Oh wow! I never.
I get it's EV Hummer commercial every single break, and I get it. I must have watched this Idris Elba commercial for some AI thing. I saw it so many times. I don't. Which commercials do y'all get over and over?
I'm forgetting what the one of the night tonight was, but the one that I've been getting all the time recently is the Burger King. Like I get a lot of Burger King. That's my one. BK, have it your way. Yeah,
it rules.
You rule.
Mine was I got Wonder Boy, Kevin Holland, Jose Cuervo.
I get that a few
like
times.
800 times.
Yeah, I get that one certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was it was BK and
I never have gotten the Hummer, so that must be like they're trying to sell you Hummers out there.
Yeah,
but I never got that.
I mean, I'm thinking because I own a fully EV car, but I would never get a Hummer. But they're trying to sell me a Hummer EV, so I'm like, okay. So I was just wondering if everyone got it. I assume we all had we get different commercials. I didn't know if it was based on the region of the country or just.
I think there's
what
definitely
we're searching for on Amazon. I don't know.
I don't think they're that specific, but I do think they're targeted. But I don't think they're like they're not webpage ad specific where it's like you talked about this in a conversation with your friend and then all of a sudden you see it. It's not that specific.
Yeah, just kind of curious. All right, super chats. Let's do this.
Yes, please.
We have our good friend Achilles Jr.
Still no bonuses, by the way. Rick, enjoy your vacation, dude. You deserve it. Thank you guys for the content. Send positivity. Who the excuse me? Who tapped into
hacked.
Achilles Jr.'s account?
Wow.
Wow.
We got another one from Achilles Jr. Hold on, we got another one.
Psych, hope you step on a Lego.
Got him.
Oh my god.
Wow. You had me fooled. He had me fooled. I thought for a second we were going positive. I thought today was the day on the aftermath, in the wake of what was potentially the worst UFC card of the year, ahead of a fight that I am anticipating greatly with UFC 305. I thought this was the moment we turned the corner. This is when the page turns and Achilles Jr. and I squash the beef and settle all debts. Well played, Achilles, but I will not forget. I will forgive, but I will not forget.
Oh, man.
Don't worry. Lazy bed will come through with something spicy.
All right, we got another super chat.
Oh man, I hope you step on a Lego just hits differently.
Psych.
I mean, with kids, that's a real like wishing harm on me.
Yeah. That's brutal. Steven, the boys, get GC on BTL again. I have two questions about the big boys. One, can we get a cheeky top 5 heavyweights of all time? Two, why is Cain Velasquez considered one of the best? Good luck in your fight. No sleeves, Casey. Jay Ellis.
Jay Ellis,
Still
baby.
Jay Ellis.
Closed mouths don't get fed, Jay Ellis. Let's go.
I don't have a top 5 like off dome, so I'm gonna have to do a little looking. But Cain Velasquez would certainly be in it, right? I think
100%.
at the peak of his powers, he's possibly the most skilled heavyweight, right? There are no deficiencies. If he's standing up with you, he's probably better. If it comes to a late fight, the cardio, he's probably better. Comes to the grappling, he's probably better. He's better than most dudes in their expertise. He's just extremely well-rounded, and like outside of injuries, the dude was kind of like unstoppable. Like other than just his body falling apart, he was one of one. So Cain is definitely in there. I don't think this is like top 5 heavyweights to me doesn't mean like who strung together the most wins in the like Derek Lewis is going to have more UFC wins than Cain Velasquez. That does not mean that he is a better fighter. So I'm going to definitely have Cain in there. But now let me think about like how I fill out the rest of that. I think
Fedor's got to be in there.
Yeah,
I think Fedor Stipe Cain is like kind of like for sure a 3. Although man, like
where do you put Big Nog?
it's like Nog, Crow Cop. It gets hard because like the UFC and Pride, like you kind of either go one way or another on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to go with this. Like there's case for like Verdum.
Totally.
Yeah,
There's cases for, there's Overeem. There's cases for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
But those,
It's a
I think
hard
those
one.
3 are like, I think those 3 are like, they have to be in there. Cain, Stipe, Fedor.
Yeah, Cain, Stipe, Fedor, kind of like right there. Stipe
Like Frank Mir has could be in there. There's so many.
Stipe is in there just for, to me, like consistency.
Yeah.
It's just it's weird because I don't consider him like I would have him losing against like prime this version
Sure.
of these great fighters. But much like why I love Demetrius Johnson, during his run, even on his worst nights, he still won. He showed up and won. and until he did it. But yeah,
he was the best of an era, right? That is his legacy. There was an era where things were changing. There was a changing of the guard, and he was the guy who took the belt and ran with it at a time that there was some like instability. But to your point, in a fight against most of these guys, I don't know where I'd have him really. Like I personally think Daniel Cormier is a better heavyweight than Stipe Miocic, right? I rate Cormier higher, right? But Stipe has wins over Cormier that make it hard to ignore. With Cormier being on the back end of his career and Stipe just taking advantage of that. But
Yeah.
he was the best of an era. That's the way you like the same way Fedor was the best of an era, right? Now his era was longer, right? A very long reign for Fedor. He was the best for a long time, but he was also the best of an era. And then when that era ended, there was opportunity, right? There were guys like Brock and Cain who could come up, and all of a sudden we're thinking about who is the best heavyweight. But Stipe had an era. Stipe had a run, no doubt. And so I think he belongs in the conversation. But to your point, like 1v1, like there's guys I'd pick over him, certainly.
You know the name we're not mentioning at all, and I believe, depending on the results of this next fight, we'll be talking a lot more about him in this list, was Francis.
Sure.
Because Francis is like right there, and then it's more just about Francis just didn't have the longevity yet, much like Tom Aspinall. I think we all believe that Tom Aspinall can get to that kind of whatever we want to call that, Mount Rushmore or a 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
But now it just takes time now. It's just time.
The trickiest one for me is Verdum, man, because like he belongs there. He belongs there. Like just for how long he did it, and then having the biggest wins, like it's hard. It's impossible to argue against. But it's one of those things where, much like Stipe, you feel like, would I pick him against like prime Fedor? Would I pick him against prime Cain Velasquez? You wouldn't. But when he met them, you know, like this is how this goes. So it's a difficult one. Heavyweight is the hardest one for me because I feel like it's not as cut and dried the way the other divisions are. It's like you name the top welterweights, you know them. You know them off the top. You name the top middleweights, you know them off the top. It's harder for heavyweight. There's really been nobody outside of Fedor who really just completely dominated a time.
Like
and that was what Fedor
just.
Yeah. And he's obviously on there. Anybody would have him, but he's the only one that I think like. But whereas you look at these other times, it's like Izzy has this long title reign, but so does Anderson Silva, right? There's these just guys that are so obvious at these other divisions. Heavyweight is hard. Heavyweight is a hard one. I've never been able to really like make heads or tails of it.
That's funny. I haven't really talked about the best heavyweights in a while. Haven't had that little water cooler talking a bit. It's kind of fun. All right.
And that's what's great about this list. You could throw anybody in there. Cabbage, like you just throw Cabbage in there.
Cabbage Guerrero. Just running Rumble in the Rock, baby. Hell yeah.
Wes Sims, right? We could throw all these guys in.
Sims. Oh yeah.
But I think we all can kind of agree. 100% prime, fully healthy Cain Velasquez may have beaten every human in the world.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, but
there's
that
no
window was so small. It was just so small that
his body just didn't last.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of NBA guys like that too. You think about like Grant Hill or Penny Hardaway or Tracy McGrady, that like they were the most talented guys you've ever possibly seen, and their bodies were just like, nope, sorry, can't do it. It's unfortunate, but yes, I think in his prime, Cain had no weaknesses. He was just amazing at everything and better than you everywhere, even at your best. Your best thing, he was better than you at. It's hard to beat that guy.
Cain was Tom Aspinall before Tom Aspinall was Tom Aspinall. Like
the
legend of Cain in the gym, and like anyone who's seen this guy train with anybody all said the same thing in like 2014, 2015. Like even before that, it's like, this dude is the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, think
and
about how
like, I don't really know, but they all said it. They all said it.
Think about how two-weight world champion Daniel Cormier talks about Cain. Like, you don't have to be like a rocket scientist to figure out like how good that dude was.
What did Cain fight at? Around 230, around there?
I feel like less than that. No, maybe.
Yeah. And like much like Fedor and DC, small heavyweights. Relatively. Yeah. Just interesting. Very cool. Thank you, Steven. That was a kind of fun. Good I don't know.
Stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, a couple more super chats.
Oh, we got bonuses.
Bonuses. Right.
We got bonuses. Boy, I've never seen this before.
Whoa.
No fight of the night.
Shocker.
3 performance of the nights.
Oh, did they give a double bonus to anyone, or they just saved money?
Saved money.
I think they're pocketing it. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna go out on a massive limb and say it is the 3 finishes on the card.
Correct.
Wow.
Good
You
job.
guys are good.
Good
You guys are
job.
good at what you do. That's why you're the best in the business. Yusuf Salal, Kazama, and Serghei Spivac get bonuses. If Chepe Mariscal made weight, he should have definitely got a bonus. He beat the shit out of Damon.
Yeah,
Jackson.
that was an impressive performance.
I wanted Jackson's corner to throw the towel in. He did not need that beating. He was not coming back from that.
No, yes, I agree. I agree he was not going to win that fight, but man, he is one of those guys that just like he's a dog, and they've probably seen him do stuff in the gym where it's like he comes back and like, do you throw a towel for Darren Elkins? Like I guess you just like there's certain guys you just never throw a towel for because you've seen the craziest possible things happen. They're so tough, and they can really find ways to win even in circumstances where you think they can't. I don't know.
It's not about that. It's about what Damon Jackson's got a family.
I know.
How's his brain gonna be in 3 years? I know. I'm all thinking about people and stuff, not our immediate entertainment right now. But
it is a broken system because if they throw in the towel, he goes.
Yeah, I watch enough boxing now, and like I see Tall was throwing it all the time. I'm like, why?
Yeah, but you're saying too early, too prematurely in boxing.
Well, I think it's because I'm so used to the MMA world where like he has to die, and the referee has to take a nap during the fight, and not forget I don't know. It has to be an incredibly late stoppage by the ref for the corner to throw it in. But in boxing, I see it all the time. Like, oh, that guy lost. He just got beat up for 2 rounds pretty bad. The corner's just like, you know what? I just don't want my guy to get knocked out because he's not coming back from this.
Well, there's potentially that feeling of like, I don't want to see my guy. I don't want to see my guy get knocked out. But there's also the reality that boxers taking sustained blows to the head like lead to deaths every year. Mm-hmm. Like it is a more dangerous sport. Frankly, like if we're measuring danger by like mortality and fatality rates, like boxing is more dangerous. And so I kind of understand the quicker pull. I understand like the towel coming in sooner because we see dudes who like are fine. Then by the time they're like starting to walk back to the locker room or passed out and don't make it. And that is some harrowing shit. Like if you're a corner man. So I get the early pull, but I also don't feel like MMA is good in that regard because it is such a hard system to break out of when it's show win and you have to back your guy and then all of a sudden you throw in the towel and he's like, why'd you throw it in? I was going to win the fight.
I mean, I completely get them not throwing it in. I understand that. I would like
I get it.
I wish the mindset would change a little more. But thank you. Did we answer this? Oh, sorry. Super chat here.
Will a 305 watch party happen at the world's most famous Shoe Mansion next week? Yes. Hopefully we could finally see Ben Roethlisberger.
That one's going to last forever.
That might be my favorite watch party reaction of all time.
Your guys' reaction was so good. It was so
just
good.
Kept coming back. Yes, it's going to happen. That might be next weekend. Might be one of the craziest weekends I've ever had covering this sport.
Okay.
Because I'm going to drive from here in South Carolina to Atlanta for the watch party. Then I'm going to take an early morning flight from Atlanta to New York City, hours after the card ends. And I'm going to go to the theater at MSG and I'm going to cover the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson press conference, which is also starring Peyton Manning of all people. So that should be fun. And then I'm going to cover that, get that all squared away, probably walk around Fanatics Fest. I think there's going to be some UFC fighters there as well. Try to get a couple things. And then I'm going to go back to the airport and I'm going to fly home. Well, I'm going to fly back to Atlanta and then I'm going to get in the car and drive from Atlanta back to South Carolina. And then I'm going to go to bed. So it's going to be It's like
How long?
4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours.
Yeah, it's just long enough
Get a
where
late
it
one.
gets. Yeah.
Get a late one. But I'll get a little sleep, take the kid to school, and hopefully I can go back to sleep for the rest of the day until I have to pick him up from school. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Respect.
Solar Clop. Hi from Tijuana. At the moment, Puerto Vallarta. Casey, I'll hit you when I get back next Tuesday. In Mexico, we don't get any commercials. The transmission just continues with no commentary, and we get some inside look. I've gotten that a couple of times, and I watched the fights on Hulu instead of ESPN Plus because Lord knows that ESPN Plus app works 50% of the time.
I had to reset it twice tonight.
Yep. So I always forget that you could just go on Hulu and watch it, and I never have any issues with Hulu.
Thank you for telling me that. I completely forgot about Hulu. You're right. And
it never fails on Hulu.
And sir, I hope we can work this out because I would love to go to TJ and train. Sounds very fun. Thank you much.
It's all coming together.
All coming together for the Jay Ellis fight.
Jay Ellis, sign the contract. Sign the contract, Jay.
Little Cage Titans embedded from TJ. Let's go. Mark Coleman, greatest heavyweight of all time in the UFC. Yeah.
I'm gonna say probably not, but worth recognition, right? Like Mark Coleman is an absolute stud.
Yeah,
and
a pioneer. Call him a pioneer.
Yes, a pioneer. I say more so than like greatest. Yeah. I don't think he belongs in that conversation, but he certainly is one of the ones that kicked off like this idea of what a great heavyweight could look like.
Yeah.
Both literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Talk about a man that looked the part too.
Yeah, totally.
Still does.
Still does. Yeah. All right. Here we go. A couple more super chats.
Elizabeth, Rick, get the Legos out the crib. I need an Apex nap. There you go.
Yeah. We're gonna keep that safe back there.
Steven, yes, GC on BTL. Something Alex versus Tom. Alex versus Tom headline UFC Salt Lake. John can't deny the winner. He will get paid and it bangs. It's not gonna happen.
No, that's not the fight. No.
It won't happen. And John can't completely deny the winner.
He absolutely can, and he will.
He absolutely can.
Likely.
He absolutely can. But
I need to defend Jon Jones here. Wait, before we move on, I need to defend Jon Jones here. If they made the contract worth his while, he would fight them. It is not.
You'd fight Pereira.
Oh, he'd fight Tom Aspinall if they made it worth his while. This is it, and it frustrates me to no end that we have to always have this conversation. If the UFC cut the check for Jon Jones to fight Tom Aspinall and it was the appropriate amount of money, he'd be fighting him in November. And if the UFC cut the check for Jon Jones to fight Francis Ngannou for those last 2 years before Francis Ngannou left the UFC, he'd be fighting Francis Ngannou. And Francis Ngannou, if they cut him the check, he'd still be a UFC fighter. It's all about the check. Nobody's scared of anybody. They all have to take risks at some point. It just has to be worth their while to take that risk. And if Jon Jones has Tom Aspinall's name in front of him and it comes with 2 extra zeros on the contract, you can bet your ass he'd be signing it. So it's the UFC that needs to step up their game. It is not Jon Jones.
I will push back on one thing you just said.
Okay,
one thing you said, and it has nothing to do with what you said about Jon Jones, because everything you said is absolutely true. The Francis thing, I do push back on slightly. Not saying that they offered Francis everything they could have offered him. I actually think at that point in time, they could have offered him all of those things and more, and Francis would have been like, nah, I'm just kind of sick of your bullshit. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? So
that could very well be true.
I know what you're trying to say, though.
Yeah, no, totally.
But the Jon thing is absolutely true.
I'm talking more before it got to that point. But yes, you're right. By the end, I think it was probably a no-win situation for them. Like he was going to feel more respected elsewhere. But when we're sitting there for
absolutely true. It's absolutely
when we're sitting there for 2 years talking about this shit, and then Dana saying Francis is scared, then John's scared, then they're both scared, then they're neither scared, whoever's scared, everybody's scared. Cut the check and nobody's scared. I promise. If you cut the check, nobody's scared.
Yep. That's it. Yeah. That's it.
It's question. That's it.
That's it. All right. A couple more.
I don't know
super chats.
what's gonna. What do you think headline? What do you think will headline Salt Lake?
My girl, Juliana Pena of the Parlay Pals, baby.
No, I didn't ask what will co-headline Salt Lake. I'm asking what will headline.
I think that will headline. I mean, I don't know what else we got.
There is a world where that does happen.
I think it does. I think it does headline, but I think we might get a rando BMF title that will be the co-main event, because that will be the true main event, but it won't fight it won't be the main event, but it's gonna be the one that all the clicks are for.
So I've been saying this, and then all of a sudden Armin said this, right? I've been saying, like, why you could make an interim lightweight title, or even though it seems like Islam is going to come back soon. And Armin came out in front and was like, I'd fight Dustin, or I think Justin, he said, right? Like, I think those are the two names that he said that he'd fight for, or Chandler for an interim title.
Yeah.
That is a good fight. Those are good fights. If you have to, like, if you are the UFC and you feel compelled, like, we have to quote unquote save it, right? Like, this has to be something, you could do worse than that. But Chandler, I don't know
Armin
I'd watch the hell out of it. I know Mike doesn't want Chandler to step into the title opportunity in that way.
No, it's the same reason that Kamaru Usman shouldn't be fighting Balal Muhammad for the welterweight title. The dude doesn't want to fight in years, and he got finished at his last one. And Kamaru hasn't want to fight since 2021. 2021 was the last time Kamaru Usman won a fight. You cannot give this man a title shot. Sorry, win one fight against anybody, and then you can have one.
I'd watch it.
You'd watch what? Chandler and
Kamaru
Armin?
And Kamaru versus Balal. Let's do it. I'm in.
Over Shavkat? I would lose my gosh darn mind. I would lose my mind. It's so egregious and ridiculous. I'm sorry. The dude is 0-3 in his last 3 fights.
Oh,
in his last 3 fights.
But he fought so valiantly in 2 of them.
He choked and got head kicked. Then he lost. Then he lost clearly, and then he lost to Hamza. Like, I'm sorry, like,
making me so happy.
Respect. I have immense respect for Kamaru Usman. I really do, but I'm sorry. You cannot give a guy who's lost 3 fights in a row. Oh well, someone's take on this whole situation was Usman should get it because Usman's almost retired and Shavkat has plenty of time. The hell are you talking about? That is ridiculous. You know what? The Chiefs can't play in the Super Bowl because we have to let Tom Brady in there. Even though the Chiefs won the AFC Championship, even though they've won all of the games, they won 15 in a row, and they're blowing the doors off everybody. Tom Brady, this might be Tom's last season, so we have to let him play in the Super Bowl. What the fuck are you talking about? Let the bulldozer fight for the title. Give him his money. Give him his title shot.
Very good. Very good. I like the rounders there. Counterpoint or devil's advocate. I mean, is this not the Stipe Miocic title shot that we're seeing right now? Like, it is essentially that, right? Like, it's like this is the last hurrah. Like, we give it to him. So, like, yeah, Kamaru Usman, it's your turn. Let's do it. I'm in. I also just love winding you up right now because you're very passionate about this, so I'm enjoying this. But
okay, here's the only other alternative I will accept. The only other alternative I will accept is you bench Balal Muhammad for the next 9 months. He doesn't fight again to the middle of 2025, and then you do Usman versus Shavkat. Then I'm okay with that. But Balal should not be fighting anybody. Like, if they just do Usman. Yeah, if Shavkat is healthy and they do Usman versus Balal in December or something, and Shavkat is like healthy and ready to fight, put me on the reaction show because I'm going to blow a gasket.
I want to be on too because I want to see Mike like in real time.
It's gonna be real bad. My first thought was like just throw Balal in at Salt Lake. I know he just fought, but if I'm Balal, honestly, like if I am Balal Muhammad right now, I think his best chance to beat Shavkat is to fight that dude real quick. Yep. Like, don't give this dude 3 months. Give him like 7 weeks and throw him in elevation. And I think that's his best chance to beat him.
here's where that plan falters. Is you say that, and then Shavkat goes, I can't fight on that timeline, and then you get Kamaru Usman versus Balal Muhammad on short notice in Salt Lake City. That's exactly how that plays out. That's exactly
Okay.
you have created the scenario where Usman does fight
You
Balal.
think Usman's? But you think Usman
Yes.
would take that his last
title
shot
fight?
at a title shot?
Oh yeah, I think he's
title
taking a title fight no matter what. I think he's taking it
I
no
think
matter
he would-
what.
I think he's literally one win against anybody in the top 15 away from getting a title shot. No matter who wins Balal versus Shavkat. Doesn't matter.
I think you take it.
Fight Gary, fight JDM, fights Wonder Boy. I don't give a shit.
Those all
Just
come
win
with
one fight.
those all come with a risk. Those all come with a risk. If they gift you a title shot, you take that bad boy and you cash that check. You cash that check and you fight him in Salt Lake. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think they feel like they quote unquote have to save this card. I think it will be Pena versus Pennington ultimately.
Do Armin versus Dustin if you're gonna do some weird.
I'm
fight.
down for that.
It'd be hilarious if
it.
Usman or Shavkat couldn't go and they do like Balal versus Chandler, which would just be like the most bizarre warped friggin' thing that we've ever seen. Chandler wins the welterweight title and defends the title against Conor McGregor. Oh my god!
Yeah, it's like Mike. We just ran out of time to like figure out this Conor thing with you. Like, we'll put you in the championship position where Conor can probably make the weight of that weight class. So let's do that, and then hopefully he'll want to fight you.
Yeah, dude, we might get Raquel versus Juliana in Salt Lake. Who the hell knows?
It
That
feels
card's
like
actually
the
card's actually pretty solid.
I like the card. It's gonna be if it is Juliana versus Raquel, it's gonna be one of those that's like, this is a solid card that's missing a little bit of oomph at the top, but like that fight's good. It's a good fight. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of drama. I think Juliana will do her job in terms of trying to rile up Raquel, and I think Raquel is a good one to do that with because she's so genuine. And she will just take offense to it and be like genuine in response and be like, I hate this. I don't want to do this BS. And she will like, instead of trying to like play it up, instead of trying to like go back and forth with the trash talk, she's going to just be so indignant about the way Juliana is talking that I think it'll ultimately be okay. It'll be fine. And then you roll into
What's
December.
Weili doing?
I mean, but she would be co-main.
I'm fine with that. Weili Tatiana
is that an all women's like main? What does the main card look like right now?
It's a great question. Jose Aldo's fighting on that card.
Oh, that's right. Jose Aldo's on it.
So you'd have to assume he will be on that main card. Rito Kayla Harrison's certainly going to be on the main card.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, right? Like Kayla and Tisha and Carla
pretty good card, man.
Are on the card.
Movsar Evloev, Aljamain Sterling, Chris Curtis, Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
Jose Aldo, Mario Batista.
It wouldn't be an all women's main card, but actually, I mean, top to bottom, you're looking at some sick fights here.
Yeah, Harrison Vieira, Marina Rodriguez, Yasmin Lucindo, Ihor Potieria versus Cesar Almeida. Someone's going night real quick in that one. And then
I don't see a bad fight here.
Yeah, Carlos Esparza, Tisha Pennington, last fight of Carlos Esparza's career.
I'm okay if I'm the UFC. I say Salt Lake, you got a good card. Here's Pena and Pennington. Championship fight. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, Salt Lake is paying for this one, so. Steven, Jesus, man.
He loves Conor, huh? Shout out to this
man.
guy.
He really wants to get Conor on BTL. Yeah. $52 super chatting, and it was worth it. You are the man. So many iced coffees to be had. You boys deserve every dollar. Shots and squats. Whoop whoop. Steven, you rule. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steven.
And David Sandine with one. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll let you guys read this.
Thoughts on the UFC Apex being closed for 8 months for renovation. Rumor has it it's going to be rebranded and themed Riyadh Season Presents the Apex. I don't know if this is a joke or not. I don't know.
No, so I've been seeing this circulating a lot, that there is apparently some scuttlebutt about the Apex closing for renovations. I have no inside track on it, so I have not there's nothing for me to say on it. But it is not. I am not unaware of the fact that people are talking about it. Nobody I have heard talk about it is anybody that has reporting in their job description. So that's how I'm taking it.
Okay.
I've seen
And
photos of like dirt around the apex of like expansion to the building of some kind, but I honestly have no idea.
well,
I
the
would be
UFC
stunned if they. I would be stunned if they just close operations for 8 months when they have to put all these cards on. You're telling me they're just not going to do an Apex card for
they
8
just built
months? I
they just
don't
built
buy it.
Apex what 5 years ago? Was it? How
Yeah,
old is
I
Apex
just
now?
don't.
Yeah, but they're building it out. They're expanding it.
Oh,
That's
expanding
the
it.
construction.
Oh,
Yeah, they're making it bigger.
Oh, it's
They're-
just making it
they're-
bigger. Okay, I thought it was like a whole new thing.
Just
No,
put
no.
some yellow tape and cones around the construction area and just keep the octagon where it is. The fights can still happen at the Apex. It would have more color and flair and emotion in there with all the construction going on than it did tonight. I can tell you that right
Forklifts
now.
going in the background. Yeah, I won't mind.
That was
Maybe
the
that'd be different.
darkest I've ever seen in the Apex. It just
how many-
like that was the.
I wonder how many fans
You
paid
notice
for
that
it.
too?
They did no fans even like the $2,000 tickets or what is it for a fan to go to the Apex fight?
Yeah.
Isn't it something stupid?
They blacked out the whole crowd, like the whole entire event. I've never seen that before. Never seen it where it's just like looking like like an AEW show at a big arena where they just like black out everything behind the first like 5 rows. So it looked like it was bizarre. It was bizarre.
Okay, and our last super chat comes from our great friend Chase.
No longer pissed drunk at the airport. What did I miss?
watch the Spivac fight and you're good.
Yeah,
Yeah, watch Yusuf Salal. He was fun.
yeah, and yeah, we got to watch the Spivak fight because you got to know the storyline for the eventual Tybura Spivak trilogy.
That's right.
Yeah,
Go
One more
find
time,
Tom on
baby.
Twitter. He'll tell you. Yeah, go find Tom on Twitter, who tweeted us earlier. He will give you all the storylines coming out of this card that we will surely be talking about for months and years to come. Coming out of this one.
and
Is that
our
it?
last, one more.
yeah.
This one's.
Shout out to the GOAT.
The
This is,
iconic voice.
She's
The iconic
waiting. She's like, when is the show wrapping up? Because we have spaghetti to eat.
Oh,
It's dinner
let's take
time for Casey.
last call for
Ernesto.
super. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we don't want to ruin dinner time. By the way, let me just throw this out there.
Mike, but what about Kamaru Usman versus Balal Muhammad?
Ooh, that makes a lot of sense. I like it.
Yeah, we should dig deep on that actually for a bit.
Because I don't know, Kamara, how many more fights does he have in him? You gotta give him. He might retire anytime.
In order for him to get a title shot in a realistic world, 2, which means he has to win 1, preferably against an Ian Gary or a Jack Della Maddalena, and then get a title shot. But God, they're gonna put Usman in this fight. I'm gonna
You know
lose it. Gonna friggin' lose it. If Shavkat is hurt and can't fight, okay, I could deal with that. But if Shavkat is like, all right, I'm ready to go, I'm already in training camp and I'm fighting, and Dana starts yelling and screaming in his war room against Kamaru Usman, the greatest welterweight in the history of welterweights, that includes George St. Pierre.
You don't know what you're talking about if you don't love Kamaru Usman versus Balal Muhammad. You don't even know what you're talking about.
If you don't have Kamaru Usman number 2 on your pound for pound list behind Jon Jones, then you're a fucking idiot. Oh, God. It's going to happen, isn't it? By the way, on to the next one. We're recording it tonight. So if you want to get your matchmaking picks in, get them in now. Good night, everybody.